I am genuinely delighted to see so many people here this evening. I'd like to thank all of you for your continued support on behalf of CIBSE. Incidentally, for our overseas guests, a special welcome. If you're in the UK for the first time, the weather's always like this in the UK. I said a few moments ago that Kevin's 125 challenges I thought was a wonderful way for us to reflect on the past whilst looking to the future. And tonight I'd like to talk to you a little more about that future. And this year I want us to focus on our contributions to it as leaders in our respective fields. So this is not just about our engineering skill or judgment, but our role, our passion, and our resolve to do whatever is necessary to truly deliver excellence in our buildings. So my presidential theme is going to be about us all taking a lead. I want to start by sharing a story about how leadership supported by innovation and collaboration transformed an industry. It was in 1995 that the Ford Motor Company asked Jackie Stewart to design and build a Formula One car that was genuinely capable of competing for race wins. Stewart's son Paul already owned and operated a successful Formula 3 team, so that became the basis for the new venture. But there were two distinct differences between Formula 3 and Formula 1. Firstly, in Formula 3 at the time was a national series, whereas Formula 1 was global, so the logistics of transporting cars around the world was much more complex and expensive. And secondly, in Formula 1, the teams design and build the entire car rather than purchasing and adapting one from a specialist supplier. And Stewart realised that they had some of the competencies to succeed in the field, but the rest they would need to acquire. And he also saw that money alone would not bring success, that innovation, collaboration would also be required. And so they did three things. Firstly, they retained their involvement in Formula 3 to provide a stairway of talent to the new team. They invested heavily in computers and became the first team to design an entire car using computer-aided design. And they built strong relationships with Cosworth, their engine supplier, so that the engine and the chassis could be developed as one, with Texaco for bespoke fuel and lubricants, and with Bridgestone for more durable tyres. And those strong relationships accelerated the development of the car, such that it was launched in just 12 short months. Their first season was an undoubted success, the high point coming in Monaco, where they took second place, which was considered a remarkable achievement for a new team. 3 years later, Ford bought the team outright and it was renamed Jaguar Racing. It was then sold again to become the operation that has developed into current world champions Red Bull Racing. I believe that this story is highly similar to the one we face today. We have proven track records in our own respective fields, but to deal with the challenges we now face to decarbonise our building stock whilst responding to the requirements of the Building Safety Act, we're going to need something more. We're going to need to broaden and increase our capabilities, innovate and collaborate, and above all, we're going to need to demonstrate strong leadership where perhaps we haven't before. And this leadership shouldn't just be top-down. All of us need to take responsibility and accountability. So whether it's downwards from above or upwards by challenging the decisions of our managers or even our clients, or if it's sideways with our colleagues or other industry partners, all of us have opportunities every day or every week to take a lead. So why do I think this is so important? That's easy. Each building we work on will either further fuel climate change and its associated problems, or it will become part of the solution. There is no middle ground. In 2022, despite everything we're currently doing to try and reduce them, our global carbon emissions went up. They haven't peaked yet. And if we're to stand any chance of limiting our global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, which I think is now becoming more and more difficult, we need to reduce the carbon emissions from our buildings by at least 45% by 2030. That's 6.5 years, the time that it takes to train a graduate. And from there, we then expect to have 4.3 billion existing buildings around the world that will need to retrofit to net zero standards by 2050. And at the end of 2021, we'd dealt with less than 1%, so we've a long way to go. And whilst we're doing all of that, we have to understand that half of our industry's future emissions will come from buildings in developing countries that have yet to be constructed. So we have to act globally to make sure the lessons we have learned can be effectively shared around the world. So it's quite a task, but we have still got time, and we've certainly got the skills and expertise that are required to make these further step changes. But as building services engineers, I believe we now need to be prepared to take the lead. And so we're going to need more people. The UK construction industry alone anticipates it will need a further 200,000 to 300,000 people. So we need to be more innovative and engaging with the way we attract new entrants. As long as I've been associated with CIBSE, we've been talking about a skills shortage in our industry and how we can attract more young people. And I was interested to hear some of the staff from headquarters saying they'd been looking at the minutes of a council meeting from 1923. 100 years ago, our predecessors were discussing exactly the same issues. But should finding new entrants be such a hard issue for us to solve? Over the past 40 years, the number of 16 to 18-year-olds leaving school has been fairly constant. So it's not that there's fewer people available to us, it's the number of those entering the construction industry in comparison with other sectors. So if we can increase our reach to include those still at school, making the choices that will dictate their further courses of study and employment, how much more can we achieve? And building services has just got sexy. We've now finally got computers, we've got building simulation, 3D modelling, BIM, data exchange. And if you put that with our role in saving the planet, surely now we can attract more to join us. And CIBSE's got some great volunteers that are committed to going into their local schools and colleges to promote careers in building services. If we can increase that number, cover more ground, influence more pupils, then what a difference we can make. So this evening, I'm delighted to be able to launch a new CIBSE initiative that will help our members shape the future of our industry by encouraging more young people onto one of our excellent university courses or apprenticeship programs. Our new CIBSE STEM Ambassador Scheme, in partnership with STEM Learning, will help our volunteers in all regions, both within the UK and overseas, to attract new entrants. And I am challenging each of them to have 10 active CIBSE STEM ambassadors by this time next year. We've already got a new resource hub on the website, which provides CIBSE-specific careers materials and presentations. Registration is easy and provides assistance with DBS checks where they're required, online training and learning, and most importantly, it provides access to schools that are asking for our help. And by managing everything through the STEM Learning portal, we'll be able to assess and report on the STEAM's success and use it to drive continuous improvement. We're also going to link it to our mentoring scheme, so if somebody expresses a particular interest in lighting, we can link them to our Society of Light and Lighting. If it's lifts, fire engineering or digital engineering, we can match them with these. We're a wide and diverse organisation. There's a place for everyone. We have some of the best opportunities in the world for young people wanting a career in building services. This was demonstrated by Kevin's 125 challenges when some of our leading lights spoke about their building services icons and career stories. So I'm delighted to be launching this new initiative. I think that it's a much needed next step. And as we work to reduce our skills gap, we need to be equipping our workforces with the appropriate levels of competencies for the task at hand. And CIBSE's mandatory net zero CPD goes some way towards addressing this, but we need to go much further. The Building Safety Act is fundamentally changing the way that the UK construction industry operates. It's a hugely significant, wide-ranging piece of legislation with new duties to increase accountability and transparency on all industry participants. And as the secondary legislation is now coming through, it's starting to become clearer about what exactly compliance will look like and how demonstrating competence will work. Most people now understand that offences under the Act are a breach of criminal law, and they're preparing their organisations and proactively engaging with their clients to make sure they comply. So it's another huge issue for us to address. So over the next few months, you're going to start to see us bring forward guidance to support implementation of the Act, together with details of a new CIBSE Chartered Organisation programme that will help our businesses demonstrate their competence. The programme will help organisations work towards a set of predetermined criteria. It will show that they are competent and professional, operate to high business and ethical standards, and are committed to developing and maintaining qualified workforces. It will help our organisations to plot a successful path through the legislation and bring benefit to their businesses by differentiating them as a mark of quality. I think this is going to be of significant benefit to us over the next few years. And alongside building safety, we need to continue to press for more robust routes to net zero. Last year's update to Part L of the building regulations was another good step forward. And with the government committed to a further amendment in 2025, we're starting to get to where we need to be with new buildings. And with changes to energy performance certificates driving higher energy efficiency ratings in buildings, in our existing buildings, the market here is shifting also. And with new dwellings now for the first time requiring an overheating assessment to deal with the solar gains that have become so problematic in some of our new developments, CIBSE has been calling for overheating to be included in the building regulations since 2006. It's been researching it and developing guidance and calling for it, so we were particularly pleased to see this included. Building services engineers are finally becoming recognised for the important role they play in influencing the shape and the form of buildings for the better. And just as in 2006 when we first met SBEM for non-domestic buildings, industry is looking to us to lead it through these complexities. So the goals are high and they rely on all parties to play their part, but the prize is huge, so we shouldn't shy away from challenging low or unambitious targets where we know we can do better. And CIBSE continues to lead the call for embodied carbon to be addressed in the building regulations. We've learned how to design buildings that are energy efficient in use. But to be truly carbon neutral, the carbon generated in the manufacturing of the products used to construct the building must also be considered. And this is why CIBSE's role in the leadership of the UK net zero carbon building standard is so important. Along with other leading organisations, we're developing a standard that will robustly demonstrate that our built assets truly are net zero. Once the standard is published later this year or early next, there will be plenty of further work to do to make sure that it sticks, is widely adopted and ultimately embedded into our building or energy regulations. From there, we'll need to upskill our workforces and develop robust procurement to ensure that its provisions are delivered. If you think about it, most new buildings are prototypes. It's often the first time that products and components have been put together to work together as one. And yet we expect everything to work perfectly from day one. And we procure them in largely the same way we do desks or computers. We know that lowest overall price rarely delivers building excellence. Neither does cost and quality generally. So we have to find ways to incorporate clear success factors into our projects at the outset and allow for post-contract evaluations at conclusion to make sure they have been demonstrated to be achieved. So a further theme for this year will be for us to collaborate with our other industry partners to drive better construction procurement. We want it to provide industry-wide guidance on proper building performance metrics and how to incorporate them effectively into our construction projects. We think there needs to be a greater emphasis on testing and commissioning, post-contract evaluations and carbon assessments using real consumption data. We want to look at designer appointments to make collaborative ownership of building performance formal duties on all parties. And we think there needs to be a fundamental review of how value engineering is assessed. It shouldn't just be about initial first cost, but also about its impact on building performance, whole life cost, whole carbon assessments, building safety and ongoing maintenance considerations. And there may be others, that's the whole point of a collaboration. But we want to start a proper discussion with some key deliverables and a given timescale. So I am delighted that REBA, CABE, iStruct-E with legal input and CIC have all already agreed to join us in this pursuit, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what we can achieve. Collaboration makes us so much more successful, whether it's individually in our own businesses or networks or with our wider industry partners. And engineers have a great skill to be able to break things down into their component parts, analyse the parts that are not working or could work better, and to make improvements. Each one of us now needs to be prepared to do this more often so that the full benefit of knowledge and process sharing can be realised. And I think we need to be even more innovative about the way we design our buildings. Industry is moving so much more progressively towards modular building techniques and process management tools such as building information modelling, digital information modelling and data exchange. A generation ago, CAD transformed the role of building designers. Today, BIM and digitalisation is slowly doing so again. Yet despite the opportunities afforded to us, many of us are struggling to collaborate and exchange information within the same database or computer model. We have to allocate sufficient time to understand how to best use the software in order to reap the maximum benefit. CIBSE's own Digital Society led the introduction of product data templates to enable manufacturers to provide us with the right information in the right format to promote better integration within the model. And in the near future, I can see building safety and embodied carbon inputs to the models also. And we need to fully embrace prefabrication and off-site construction. For us, a key driver is something like the plant room. If you can take, for example, 6 pumps and put them on a frame in a factory, deliver everything to site together, you drastically reduce the margin for error and at the same time the health and safety risk to the installer. So whether we like it or not, this has to be the future. High quality, precision engineering, constructed testing, and often even commissioned in a factory environment. And then we've got real-time analytics for project management, testing and commissioning and defects resolution. We've got RTS for mapping existing installations, cloud computing, digital twins, digital as-builts. And where does AI fit into all of this? Digital acceleration is happening so much faster than anyone anticipated. We have to take time to evaluate each of these and learn how to use them on a day-to-day basis where it's appropriate for us to do so. So what does all this have to do with leadership? Surely governments make the laws, the market adapts, and we just need to follow suit. That's one approach. But is it really good enough? And on climate change, will it be quick enough? And how do we respond when governments look increasingly to industry to solve problems and are unwilling to regulate? So this evening I've shared some of my ambitions for CIBSE, for its members and our wider community. But to achieve these, I need your help and I need your leadership. If you're just starting out looking to improve your professional network or your CV, or if you're well established with a wealth of knowledge and expertise, there's a role for you to play. Just as Stuart Grand Prix did back in 1995, we need to understand the competencies we will need if we are to excel going forward. We need to look at how many of them we have and how we can supplement them with additional skills, resources, innovations and collaborations. The built environment is our product, which should be enjoyed and shared by everyone. Our challenge now is to deliver and operate even better buildings. Buildings that generate less carbon over their entire life, are safe and comfortable and promote the health and well-being of all their occupants. CIBSE's membership is a worldwide network of engineers across 100 countries, 6 societies and 18 special interest groups. But the requirements we face now are not just for CIBSE members, they're for every single one of us. All of us have our part to play. And I know that this evening I'm preaching to the converted. I know by virtue of the fact that you're here that firstly, you're passionate about our industry, and secondly, that you probably already give lots of your time to it freely. So let my call resonate throughout your businesses, your networks, and your communities. Our leadership is needed now if it's going to have the impact required. And this spans our own individual responsibilities to whole organisations. As engineers, we simply must now help move the built environment from a significant contributor to global emissions to an exemplar of how to reduce them. Each one of us needs to step out of our comfort zone, step forward proactively with solutions and commit to taking a lead. Thank you.